You know those days when you're just outside, you look up and you see a plane soaring across that big blue sky? It happens all the time, right? But what if I told you there's something else going on up there? A hidden story in those white trails jets leave behind. A story that actually has a real cost for our climate, and it's happening right in front of us. So let's get into it.
I mean, we've all seen them. These long, white, pencil-thin lines that just stretch across the sky after a plane goes by. They look pretty harmless, don't they? Like they're just little wisps of cloud that'll fade away in a minute. But what are they really?
Well, they have a name. Contrails. It's short for condensation trails. And basically, they're man-made clouds. What happens is the hot, wet exhaust from a jet engine hits that super cold, high-altitude air and poof, you get these trails made of teeny-tiny ice crystals. Simple science, right? But that is not where this story ends.
Nope. Because even though they can look kind of beautiful, these contrails have a bit of a dark side, and it's a secret that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time.
See, in certain conditions, these contrails don't just fade away. They can actually spread out and hang around for hours, creating these thin, hazy clouds that act like a blanket, trapping heat in our atmosphere. And the impact? It's huge. Some research suggests the warming effect from contrails might be even bigger than the impact of all the CO2 ever released by planes. Think about that. It's a massive piece of the climate puzzle for aviation.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. Maya, a VP at Google Research, puts it pretty bluntly. Those seemingly innocent white lines, they have a very real, very negative impact on our climate.
Okay, so that's the problem. But you know what? Where there's a problem, people are always looking for a solution. And in this case, the solution comes from one of the most powerful tools we have right now, artificial intelligence.
And that's the big question, isn't it? If we know these things are bad, how do we fix it? We can't just stop all flights. Well, the answer isn't about flying less, it's about flying smarter.
So researchers at Google are training AI to figure out the exact atmospheric conditions that create these specific warming contrails. Because here's the kicker. Not all contrails are the same. A tiny fraction of them are responsible for most of the warming. The mission then is to use AI to pinpoint those moments and just avoid them.
And this is how they're doing it. It's a pretty slick three-step process. First, the AI just churns through incredible amounts of data, weather forecasts, satellite images, flight information, you name it. Then, using all that info, it gets really good at predicting exactly where and when these super warming contrails are going to pop up. And here's the best part. It then gives pilots slightly different routes to fly. We're not talking about adding hours to your flight. Often it's as simple as changing altitude by just a couple thousand feet to fly around those little pockets of air. It stops the worst contrails from ever even forming.
It's a really targeted, smart solution for a huge problem. But it also makes you think, how do you even come up with this stuff? Well, this whole project actually points to a much bigger philosophy, a way of thinking about how to solve problems that seem, well, impossible.
So this solution for what's happening up in the sky is really rooted in a big idea down here on the ground. It's a way of looking at the world that starts with one really powerful question.
That's where they begin, not with what's easy or what's the low-hanging fruit, but with what does everybody else think is impossible to solve. For decades, the contrail problem was just seen as an unfortunate, unavoidable side effect of flying. It was the perfect, impossible problem to tackle. And their whole approach follows this clear framework. First, identify a real problem that needs solving. Then, you look at what you're good at, in this case AI, and ask how you can apply it. And finally, and this is so important, the goal has to be a solution that helps everybody, that benefits all of us.
This way of thinking, it isn't just some corporate mission statement on a wall. For the people doing this work, it's personal. It's a deep-seated vision for how technology ought to be used.
You know, it's so easy to think about AI as just cold, hard code and algorithms. But for researchers like Maya, it's just a tool. A very powerful tool for sure, but still just a tool to achieve something much more human. Just let that sink in for a moment. This isn't just about a career or a project. The technology is a vehicle for a life's purpose. And what is that purpose?
That's it, right there. To alleviate suffering and help us all progress. It just completely reframes the whole conversation around AI, doesn't it? It takes it from being something technical and maybe a little scary to something that can be full of hope and purpose.
And you can feel that hope. The sense from these researchers is that we're really just at the starting line. We're just beginning to figure out how AI can help us tackle all of these huge, impossible challenges. It's just the beginning.
And that's where this story really comes back to all of us. Because this whole journey with technology, it's not meant to be a spectator sport. It's really an invitation for everyone to join in.
Let's be real, a lot of us hear AI and think it's intimidating, that it's way too complex, and that it's only for a handful of experts. But the reality they're trying to build is totally different. The goal is to make it approachable, to make it a tool for everyone. It's not some exclusive club, it's a shared journey.
That's Maya again, in her own words. The message is clear. Let's demystify this. This is not something we need to be afraid of. It's something to understand, to engage with, and hopefully to use for good.
So I think the big takeaway here is that the story of AI isn't being written by a few people in a lab somewhere. It's an open invitation for all of us to learn, to participate, and to imagine what we can do next.
Which leaves us with one last big question. We started this whole thing by looking up at the sky, at a problem hiding right in front of us. So now, as we look back down at the world all around us, you've got to wonder, if AI can help solve that, what impossible problem right here on the ground should we solve next?